Hello, this is Dale Matthews, and Mike and I agree. We're ready for tonight's show. Mike?
Yes, we just agreed upon that just a minute ago, and I'm still ready.
Okay, all
I'm
right.
still
So,
ready. So let's get started.
so ready. So ready. No,
No.
I'm not interested in so ready.
Yes.
I like to get rid of so ready. Yeah, get rid. Hey, everyone else can invest in their time and effort in those guys. No thanks for us. Anyway, that's part of the plan. So, we're going to talk tonight about the high cost of the county of a number of the goofy things that are happening here, and what we can do about this. But we're going to mostly be identifying the problems at this moment. So, one of the things that was, well, not such a pleasant subject, but a pleasant surprise is that Simon Hare actually questioned a spending program that's fully endorsed by Cheryl Walker, and Keith Eck is right there along with her if he understands
Hmm.
it. Doesn't matter if he does or not. And Mike has a few questions about this as well. Why don't we start with the questions, and then we'll put in the fact that Simon Hare actually has a few questions of his own. What is the issue, Mike, on this first clip?
Well, and you know what? It's funny because we talked about this several days, if not a week, before it ended up at the weekly business session here, and my biggest question was, Why are we doing this?
Okay, what is it that we're doing since we haven't told them what it's about?
Yes. Okay. I would have gotten that to that. Anyway, what the county wants to do is they want to spend like $150,000, 140 something $1,000 to test water over the next year and a half or something, and uh, make sure that the water that's coming down the Rogue River from that passes through the old field or dam site is within acceptable levels. And if it isn't, I'm not sure what they're going to do about it, but they're going to pay somebody a whole lot of money to test the water. And yeah, that's
So
what
the
they're going to do.
controversy is in our parks, just our parks, versus Grants Pass City drinking water. Tell them about that controversy, Mike.
Well, it's not really controversial if you ask me. The point is, we should not be paying for it. Listen, there's a number of people that watch this show that believe that we should be paying for it as the county. You're wrong. Okay. I just alienated some of our the people who watch this show. Yeah, you're wrong. Listen, the largest interest in the water that comes out of the Rogue River for the purposes of Josephine County is the city of Grants Pass drinking water. That's where the interest is. That's where the deep pockets are. That's where the money exchanges hands. That's where there's money in a kitty somewhere to deal with issues that have to do with water. We are pumping irrigation water out of the river and irrigating the lawn in a couple of parks. Whoop-de-doo. Okay. I think even if those lawns died, and I don't even think we're talking about levels that are high like that. They're worried about. I would assume that they're worried about toxicity to human beings. So, um, the city of Grants Pass ought to be covering this, and they don't seem to have any interest in it at all. And I wonder if we should pick up on something from that. If they're not interested at all, and it's been spoken about publicly in the city council chambers a number of times over the past few weeks, so they're aware of it. Uh, maybe they don't care because they already heard that the county is going to pick up the bill.
The county is
Maybe.
an easy mark.
Yeah,
Right? Somebody
apparently.
comes in and says, well, the county will pay for it. How the heck are we paying for this? To remember the emergency? The emergency situation with law enforcement. What happened to that emergency?
Yeah,
Well, it
it's all
went away
gone
when
now.
the levy didn't pass, and it's going to come back. It's coming roaring back. We're going to show you how they're already ramped up. Well, it's in another emerging emergency.
Well, and
No.
listen, to those people who I told that you're wrong, understand that I'm not saying that the testing shouldn't be done. I'm not saying that we shouldn't have an idea of what's coming down the river as a result of that dam being removed. I'm just saying that the county is not the entity that should be paying for that. It's 150 grand, and we have absolutely zero, except for the fact that some of the people in the city of Grants Pass also are in the county. That's not where the deep pockets are. That's not where the water distribution apparatus gets paid for in the city by city residents, and it should be their responsibility. I can't imagine it not being their responsibility. The safety of the water. Why is it not?
So you figured that it's 130, but you figured that that in the county there's about 83,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
In Grants Pass City, there's about 35,000. Mm-hmm. So that's almost 50,000 people who will be paying, and instead of getting police service or pet service or some other kind of service, they're going to be paying to test the drinking water that's going into Grants Pass City. Why?
That's right. Yeah. Why? That's a good question. That's a good question. I wonder why somebody didn't come up with that before.
Okay, let's see what Simon Hare has to say. When they passed this, of course they passed it. Come on. You watch this show.
I just want to state that I'll be voting in opposition to this from the standpoint that it's a year-long contract, and the majority of the contract really is geared towards habitat studies and things that are not specifically related to human health, which I agree is probably the paramount concern. And so it could be very easily probably scaled back or even broken up into payments as far as quarterly.
Okay, so
look at Cheryl. You got to look at Cheryl.
Why are we paying for habitat studies?
Yeah, that's a real good question. What they're not only are they going to study the fish, okay. Mm-hmm. They're also going to study, as my understanding of listening to them, and you got to listen real quickly during these meetings because Cheryl especially glosses over these things. They're also going to study the nearby wildlife, like Bambi and like owls and stuff like this that are flitting around the water. Because owls eat the fish and Bambi drinks the water, and so we're going to study them too. What?
Listen, I mean, if we're getting to that point, how come the feds or the state authorities, that have control over the river? I mean, they want to stop anybody from building anything, quarter mile back from the river. Why can't they deal with the river situation too?
Okay, and another thing that came up during this, not during this speech that he's making, just before the other two vote, of course they said yes. But another thing that came up is the people who are supporting this said, well, look, we need to do these tests immediately. Okay, because the rains are coming. Well, they're already here, but okay. And water has been flowing. It's not like water just suddenly started to flow. Okay. And much more water is coming. Yeah, we can only hope so. And then it's going to kind of goof up our base studies. First of all, don't tell me that the people at the Grants Pass water supply, where the water sucked in, have done no base studies in the last 100 years. Don't tell me that. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I would imagine they probably have established levels on an annual basis, if not more often.
Oh yeah, well, if you were working there, you'd be doing them probably weekly. Who wouldn't be? Take pride in your job. Okay. The other thing is, well, we've got to do these tests right now. If we don't do these tests right now, we'll lose the opportunity. Well, let's suppose that somebody needs to do the tests right now. What's stopping them from doing the test right now?
Yeah, pulling
without signing a 1-year contract.
Yeah.
You send a health department person from Diane Hoover's office. You send them trundling on down there, and they do a little test. They get the water out of there. They set it aside. Like those ice cores that they take in Antarctica. They don't look at them at 30 seconds later. They take them, and then they're going to study them over a period of time. Of course they are. The ice has been there for millennia. And so you go and you test, and before the water, hey, do it today. Do it tomorrow. Tomorrow's Monday. Go down there and test that. No, we got to sign a 1-year contract first. No, we don't.
There might be a little bit more to it than that. But, Listen, you know,
It'll
I'm
take
gonna
2 days.
disagree. Some of these people that are hot and heavy into this thing, and they're sticklers on the numbers and stuff. They're gonna disagree with me on this. That they just believe somebody has to do this because people are gonna die. Or
Well, they didn't
whatever.
mention arsenic in this last
Yes.
talk that they had at this weekly business session. Diane Hoover, all three commissioners, other experts that came up, not a single person mentioned arsenic. Now, why is the word arsenic suddenly dropped from their vocabulary? Oh, everybody just forgot? No, I don't think so. What does it mean?
I don't know, Dale. What does it mean?
It may mean that they're not finding any arsenic, Mike.
Yeah, that could be.
It's kind of strange that it was left out.
And it could be that, they're going to test for a broad spectrum of things, arsenic among them.
They mentioned aluminum specifically. They mentioned some of these other things specifically. We've always heard them grouped into a group of about 4 different things. And suddenly, nobody, just by sheer coincidence, is mentioning arsenic at all. And that's the scariest sounding word. Aluminum. Gee, okay. And people should be afraid of it, but you lick the side of an aluminum can, or whatever,
And you drink soda that comes in aluminum cans, and beer and water, and
but
et cetera,
I don't drink soda out of an arsenic can, do I?
Yes.
So,
and there is something. I did watch this thing, and by the way, the manufacturing of soda drink cans and beer cans and stuff is really actually quite fascinating. The process that they send these things through, and the inside of the can is generally coated with some thin plastic coating.
Coated with arsenic.
Yeah, coated with arsenic. That's right. But so let's examine. What is the motivation of Keith and Cheryl for jumping on board with this thing?
Let's see you while you're talking, if you don't mind.
Oh, okay.
More interesting than watching Cheryl pray about this.
Yes. So what is their motivation for this situation? And Simon's making a really good point here that the interests here are not really the county's interests. And that I think what they think is that there's going to be discovery that there's a whole bunch of bad stuff coming down the river, and they're going to say, see, we tested for it. Other people wouldn't test for it, and we're the heroes or whatever.
Yeah, now why would they do that? Hello, now here's your clue.
Well, they're running for office.
Yeah, it's a show about politics. Of course, that's why they're doing it.
Yes. Yes, and we can continue now.
Yes, thank you.
But right now, us going alone at $130,000 for, we don't have any definitive evidence that there's elevated levels of anything out there. Seems like a high cost to the county at very little potential return.
It's watching her is
one
just
of the
funny.
Speakers talked about mitigation. I don't know what the proposed mitigation would be, even if you do find elevated levels.
That's a
Typically,
great point.
the proposed solution to pollution is that there would be more water to wash it down, and it would eventually return to normal levels, probably in a decade or two, but who knows? I mean, if it's a naturally occurring ore body exuding a fluid or minerals, how do you stop that? That just seems almost impossible. So there's not enough definition in this to be able to support it at this time.
Hallelujah. I mean, I don't often go, pump my fist and go, Simon. In this particular case, he's dead on the money. Let's say that you discover some catastrophic thing. Then what? What now? Is the city going to step in and pick up their fair share of things? I don't know that that's the case. And he's right. Ultimately, you may have some elevated levels of whatever in the water for a few years, and then it goes away. But how would you intervene? How would you intercept that if all of a sudden you discovered, oh my gosh, there's some horrible stuff coming down there?
Okay, so for Mike's many detractors, here's a question. Okay. Is it possible, you guys, that the cost should be shared 50-50? Would you think?
Um, okay, I'm a little bit more amenable to that. Although, how about we pay 30% and they pay, the rest?
Right. Well, how
You
about
know,
we pay nothing because we're
right?
watering the lawns of the
Yes.
parks, and you
Yes.
pay for your test of drinking water.
But
Hello.
as it is right now, we are not going to see one dime. We aren't going to see,
Why would
because
they?
listen, hey, if your neighbor decides to test your water for your benefit, and they do it with the hopes that maybe you'll kick them a few dollars down the road, guess what? It's not going to happen, because I already determined whether or not the water needed to be tested, and I said no, and you picked it up. What kind of a fool are you?
Now we have some people in this county. There were a few of them during the last election where they're trying to push to get funding, emergency funding for an emergency sheriff for emergency reasons, right?
Right.
And even though that $1 million came in out of nowhere, I'm talking about those timber funds, they still didn't give that over to that emergency situation because the emergency was suddenly erased. That emergency will come back when it's time to vote again against a property tax. But this $130,000 might keep, I don't know, a couple of people a little bit safer, but we're not going to spend it on that. Instead, we're going to spend it, instead of having the city pay at least their fair share, which is dang near 100%.
Right.
Well, we certainly don't want to be watering the lawns of a couple of parks with what are you talking
with
about?
water that is slightly elevated in some particular element.
And that's why we
Listen.
need to do a study of the fish and Bambi along the side of the river because of our county parks.
Okay, again, if you determine that Bambi's been sucking up too much arsenic, what are you going to do about it? And who's going to pay for whatever you're going to do about it?
We're going to rush out and euthanize Bambi. That's what you're going to do.
There you go. There you go. That's a good idea. But we're going to have to dig a big, deep hole in the ground to bury his body, because we don't want any other animals eating Bambi, because then they'll be, subjected to a higher level of arsenic or something.
So Cheryl, so when I went to the city council at their last meeting, the one where the mayor was so rude to me, I said, do you realize that Cheryl Walker is telling people that you're just not interested in this subject? That you're not interested in testing the water for the people of Grants Pass? I mean, they're already on record as not caring whether or not the businesses go out. I mean, the mayor said, well, we'd keep it going for another year or two. So they're already showing they don't care about the businesses. Now they don't care about the children. What about the kittens?
Yeah, you know what? I wonder. Now I realize you had to come in there, drop your comment, and leave because we had to do the show right after that.
Yes, that's right.
So, do you happen to know whether or not it was ever addressed in their protected time?
Yeah, well, that's like, an hour later and there's nobody
Right.
left watching anymore. So it really doesn't matter. But I don't know. But it doesn't matter what they say because, one, how many people watch cable TV? I mean, honestly. Two, it's their protected time. So they're just going to say some kind of snide comments like, yeah, well, they think they know what they're talking about. Well,
Well,
no, I don't know. What did their answer possibly be?
well,
Anybody, send us an email.
if they did care, about that particular situation, hang on a second here.
Oh, it's a phone. It's an
It's
answer
a
from someone.
phone. Good. Okay. All right.
That's the mayor with your answer.
Right. If they did care, don't you think that they would take the opportunity to say something about it at some point in there, or knowing that the county is already going to pick up the tab, maybe you just keep your mouth shut? I don't know. I mean, that's an interesting.
At some point. They've talked about it in the past, and now that the county, as you said, now the county is going to pick it up. Now that Cheryl Walker, because Keith's going to go along with Cheryl. He doesn't know what's going on. And now that Cheryl Walker has said, no, we're going to do this. I mean, they had people, they're questioning this. Well, it doesn't matter. Hey, you're the same old gnats in the room that question our illegal activities. We're not listening to you. They don't listen to us.
Well,
it's the natural question.
You
Why
would
are we
think
paying?
because a number of people have mentioned this to the city councilors over the past few weeks. You would think that after hearing about it the first time, that they would come over to the county and say, "Hey, listen, I just heard about this. What's going on?"
Right.
But you don't hear about any of that.
No.
I would be interested to know. And I mentioned this before because they had the backroom meetings where they were talking about this before they talked about it at the weekly business session.
And we told you about it.
Right. And so why wasn't the city's counterpart of this? Why wasn't this person sitting in on the meeting? Why wasn't that person notified? Why wasn't at least some communique from that department in the city read about what they're doing and their concern about it? And yes, we're soliciting you for assistance on this very grave matter or something along those lines. None of that. We just go, "Oh, we got some money. We can
where's
throw some
this
money
come from?" Okay.
Oh, wait. Are you kidding, Dale? We got $1 million of timber money from the federal government that we decided, we don't have to give any of that to the sheriff to fund law enforcement. Let's just throw it at a bunch of other little things.
One of the things that came up in previous conversations with the commissioner, because this is not the first time that Simon Harris questioned this, or any of us have, and Cheryl Walker says, well, the city could get on board. They're not. The feds could get on board, but they're not. The state could get on board, but they're not. All these, we could get a grant or two, but we haven't. But we're going to go ahead and pay for it. No, does that seem backwards to anybody? You could say, hey, we are really concerned about this, and to show you how concerned, we're going to put up $5,000 to do the tests immediately. And then we're going to hold on to it, and we'll give you those for free after you kick in for a year-long study. And it's not just going to be 1 year. Give me a break. It's not just going to be 1 year. This is probably going to be, you think about it, they're going to have 10 years of studies, 5 years leading up to the point at which it passes, and another 5 years to see if it turns around and comes back.
Right. Well, and you have, listen, clearly, Eric Shaftsma, listen, if you're in this business, why would you not go to, whoever would give you some money to do this? There's a whole bunch of people and they're all spun up on Facebook. You can go look, they're still talking about the Fielder Dam project and what's in the sediment and the heavy metals and the iron and bacteria.
So I got a question for you. Do you think that he went to Grants Pass, to the city of Grants Pass, and pitched this idea? Do you think
I suspect he'd be a fool not to.
So what was their answer to this guy?
Clearly no.
Why would they say no? I agree with you, but why?
Okay. This is the missing part of this story. You realize that this is the missing part. Yes. I mean, this part really has to be covered here at some point.
Because Cheryl says, well, don't worry, we'll cover it. Is that why?
You know what?
They say there's nothing to this because their water guys say we don't care.
Well, no, maybe their water guys say, we have facilities of dealing with elevated arsenic levels. We have ways of dealing with higher bacteria. Clearly, they have to have ways of dealing with higher bacteria because there's some times of the year when the bacteria level in that water coming down that river is higher than others. They have to have a way of dealing with that. They're probably treating the water with ultraviolet light and all kinds of stuff like that. They probably have ways of dealing with elevated aluminum, elevated arsenic, elevated what was it that they were saying? Uranium. Uranium and things of that nature. They're running it through filters or they're filtering it somehow in which perhaps takes a lot of that stuff out. And they go, well, whatever's coming down the thing, we don't have to worry about it. It's no big deal. Thanks a lot for the offer. See you later. Maybe I
have a question for you, Mike.
Okay.
So the thing that happens that you don't want to happen, and somehow the citizens convince you to be a county commissioner. Okay.
Okay.
Now you're seated there, and the sheriff comes in and he says, you know what? As part of my campaign to push for the next levy, I've already started with Channel 10, and I'm already on the front page of the Courier talking about how everything is a disaster. Commissioner, I could really use $130,000 to add on just one more deputy. Think about the children.
Well, that's certainly a hell of a lot more valid argument than the one that is rationalizing the paying for these tests.
And here's what I'm going to do, Mr. Commissioner. I'm only going to patrol inside the drinking water community of Grants Pass. But I'm not going to ask them to pay for any of it. I'm going to ask you to pay for me to patrol the drinking water community of Grants Pass.
Okay, well, that's now you're getting really weird.
I am, but okay, all right. So Sandy Casanelli went out in front of the commissioner, the counselors, and she had a question to ask about this voters pamphlet that came out. Now, keep in mind that when there's a voters pamphlet for the city of Grants Pass, we're talking about 35,000 residents, and there's 19,620 that are registered to vote. And so, unlike the county where it's what number did I say? I got a note here. 51,000 registered to vote. Okay, that's a lot of full-size 8.5 by 11 pamphlets. And each pamphlet is 24, 30 pages or whatever. They're sent out by separate mail, and then you get the ballot in an envelope. Well, this ballot for the city of Grants Pass, which was 20,000, okay, the ballot was small enough to fit in the same envelope. So one, that's really tiny type. Two, people are paying the same price as they would for full size.
Absolutely.
Three, it all fit within the same envelope, so it's going to cost less to send it out. It's going to cost less. Follow the money now with us.
That's right.
It's going to cost less to send it out. But instead of a full pamphlet, with the stuff in there in regular size that you pay for, $350 a pop, okay? It costs something like $7,700, something like that, to put these arguments against the sales tax in the voters pamphlet. And the voters pamphlet was one large piece of paper printed on two sides. One piece of paper printed on two sides. Yeah, so Sandy Casanelli, she doesn't know anything. Oh, her meetings are chaos. She asked a question that you didn't ask, not our viewers, but I mean the people who are detractors. Why did it cost so much? What happened to that money?
Yeah, I'm going to guess Art Harvey's gold watch.
It's a retirement watch. Let's let Sandy put it in her own words. She does a pretty good job here.
Sandy Casanelli, Merlin, Oregon. I also would like to announce that I believe in Merlin, they're going to have on the 11th, the young Marines are going to have.
This is city audio. It's the best they can do.
For the veterans. So if you're so inclined to celebrate with a veteran, come on out. Today, I'd like to first thank the 78% of the city electorate who voted down the sales tax yesterday. Citizens of the county are eternally grateful to you. I'm sure the local merchants are equally relieved that it did not pass. I'm going to do everything I can to support the local businesses, although I don't spend a lot in town. It's nice that people like Rob Pell at Sunshine and the Golden Rule, I guess, really participated in defeating this sales tax.
I don't think Roy agrees.
I'd like to discuss the voters pamphlet for this election. 22 people turned in arguments at $350 a pop. That's $7,700 that was collected for a voters pamphlet. Normally we get the 7.5 by 11 inch booklets, but this time our almost $8,000 bought us one piece of paper on 22.5 by 16 inches that was printed on both sides. The problem with this is there was 14 arguments printed on one side that resulted in the print being so small it was almost unreadable. hardly a prudent value for the money that was spent. I don't know about others, but my argument had a major punctuation error, which I did not appreciate. I've been submitting arguments to the voters pamphlet, and I've never had them screw up in the past. We spend a lot of time trying to get everything perfect, and then to have it printed not like we submitted it is not appropriate. My question today is, who made the decision to have this voter pamphlet printed up on one page? Was it the council, the city manager, or possibly our clerk, Art Harvey? I suggest that you refund an appropriate portion of the argument filing fee to all 22 people who submitted one. This is hardly worth the money we gave you. I will leave this request for the record this evening with my email and mailing address for a response. Thank you very much.
That was Wednesday. This is Sunday. She's not heard anything back from these guys.
Yeah, and she's not going to either. That's my guess.
Now, keep in mind again, this was all sent in the same little envelope. This same little envelope, this one right here, it all fit in there. And what did people pay $350 to tell you their opinion? And you listened to them. 80% said no. Why did they pay $350 to end up with tiny little type and all crowded on one side of a sheet? And it cost nearly twice as much as the last one that went out about the property tax. And it was all on this one sheet, all folded inside there. How can it cost nearly twice as much when it all fits in the same envelope? What happened to that money, and why did it cost that much? Where'd the money go?
Telling you, Gold Watch.
Look, I'm eternally grateful that we've said goodbye to that guy, because we couldn't trust what was happening in the clerk's office. And we're so lucky that we have a very good person that can be praised for the good work that she does. I think now that we can relax. We don't even need to worry about somebody running for that office that's honest. We've got that now. Okay, that's wonderful. We're going to wait, at Mike's suggestion, to be sure he's absolutely gone before playing back for you videos from the past of the times when Art Harvey's just flat out lied to us and we caught it on tape. But I'm not going to talk about that right now. Instead, I'd like to know what happened to that money.
Why are we sending him on a severance cruise?
Severance is a good idea. Cruise is not. The other kind of severance. Okay, so now KTVL and the Courier are ramping up right away. They started doing it before this vote was over for the next property tax. It's happening already. Now, we played back this clip for you before, but we're just going to look at the last couple of people, because we looked at this and laughed about it. That's what we do. We play back videotape and laugh. You know our show. And we're going to just play the last couple of people and what they had to say. And you listen and see, if you haven't seen this already, see if you can figure out the flaw in their logic. Go ahead, Mike.
Lack of law enforcement is also disheartening for citizens. Kayla Guthrie says she doesn't normally see more than one patrol car in Cave Junction.
I have an 8-month-old daughter, and it's kind of worries me that we have no law enforcement. I feel like this town's getting worse, and I want it to be more protective as she grows up.
Guthrie says there are problems she sees that law enforcement could cut down on.
And we've had quite a few crashes lately. People getting their houses broken into, their cars broken into. We've had a couple people killed, people murdered. And I just feel like if we actually have a cop around here, maybe people will realize that we have someone looking.
Okay, all right.
Do you want to beat this gal up for the distinction between killers and murderers?
No, it's not that. It's, well, okay, first of all, it's not funny, but one of the things that happened is there were a couple people that got angry with this guy, and one of them picked up not a tire iron, but a tire jack, according to the story, and another guy picked up a piece of concrete, and they were beating this guy with this stuff. This is a crime of passion. Obviously, they didn't plan this out. Gee, I think I'll grab a rock. No, I'll grab anything that's available. And the other guy didn't have a tire iron. He had a tire jack. He was beating him with a tire jack. Whoever even heard of that? Now, a police patrol, there's just no way that you can be watching everybody. I know that the last sheriff was talking about listening devices planted all over the county, but then you have to listen to everybody. How about drones at the airport?
Yeah.
Mike, please explain how they already have a contract deputy that they're paying for.
They do have a contract deputy, but let's say that they even had 5 contract deputies. You're still spinning a roulette wheel that you're gonna that guy is gonna be in a place where he can prevent crime. There's this big, really, it's a misinterpretation of the function of law enforcement. The law enforcement is to enforce the laws and to apprehend criminals. It, generally speaking, unless some miracle happens, they're not there to prevent crimes unless you're talking about the crime of speeding down the highway. Those, they're pretty good at interdicting if they happen to be out there. But for them to be around
a crime of passion, I don't think so.
Yeah. So when Joe, attacks his neighbor because his neighbor's sleeping with his wife or something, what are you going to do about that? How is 100 more officers going to stop that guy from going over there and shooting him or whatever?
And they have a contract deputy so that their percentage of law enforcement to people is better than anywhere in the whole county.
Right. But the problem, and this is a legitimate beef on their part, is, the guy apparently doesn't show up for his job most of the time, or, he's not performing to the satisfaction of the citizens in Cave Junction.
Well, we're going to play a clip about that before we go. Okay. And so, well, yeah, okay. We still have time. But first, let's hear what this other guy has to say about the days when there was lots of law enforcement.
I think the sheriff would have liked to sit in on the editing session here, because he would have rejected this last guy's statement here.
Channel 10 is somehow not sticking with the script, because this was supposed to indicate how bad things are today as compared with the old days. This guy does not back up that. Oh, this is hilarious. Go ahead, Mark.
Over us.
Followed by a wagon load over behind the Waldo Hotel.
Roger Ramsey used to live in the county and says he experienced long response times.
You're just pretty much on your own out there unless it's a very, very serious situation. And this was back in the 80s, and it hasn't gotten any better. I live here in town now and feel a little safer.
Safety that may not improve in the county unless the citizens take more action. Covering your news, Will Metzold, News 10.
Yes. Now, what kind of action are you talking about there, Will? Unless the citizens take more actions. What do you mean there, Will, at Channel 10?
Yeah. This was back in the 80s. Let me see, 80s.
When we had full funding.
Full funding all the way up through about 2005, and it hasn't gotten any better.
No, it's much worse now than it was before.
Okay.
Well, actually, it hasn't gotten any better. But you're talking about the days when there was plenty of police, and where the police actually said, well, yeah, we've got enough people. And he didn't have. This is not bolstering your argument. This is the kind of stuff we kept running into in the last election. Well, we got the stats. Your stats are arguing against you. No, they're not. No, they're not. No, they're not.
Well, yes, back when you had full funding, you had 35, 40 officers, sheriff's officers on the force, and now they got 8. So let's say that you do get another $2 or $3 million a year. You're still not going to be even able to add nearly enough to get up to the levels that you were when they had, quote, full funding.
And so, those days were so bad that this guy is still complaining about them. And 30 years later? No, wait. Yes. 35 years later.
Yeah, when I first got here, and I live in a fairly rural area, it takes about 10, 15 minutes to get here from downtown Grants Pass. There was a guy just up the road from me, and he got his house burglarized. during full funded sheriff's department. They sent him a letter in the mail to report the burglary. They didn't come out to his house. So, this idea that if we throw a whole bunch more money at these people, now maybe the jail will be better funded. And listen, we could have better funded the jail if we would have taken the $1 million worth of timber money and given it to them. But no, we need property taxes. That's what
and what we need. Yes, I agree with you. No, they said no, because what we need is a crisis, or you're not going to vote for the levy next time. And it's already starting. You just watch that. Okay. So here's what happened at the Cave Junction meeting. This is the famous one where the mayor says, we're having a private meeting. And Keith says, that's right. We're having a private meeting. And they had a quorum. Anyway, so somebody asked a question from the audience. It was Dan Mancuso, as a matter of fact. So he asked a good question. Good for you. That's one. And Mike tried to back him up, but we'll get to that.
His reporter asked something first.
First, okay, we'll play the first part first, and ask the question of them. How come we're not getting the hours out of this contract deputy? We're paying the contract deputy to work for us. This is our contract deputy. This is the way that the county wanted it. They used to do it differently. Then they were convinced, no, do it through the county. And listen to their explanation of this. This is the craziest thing. Go ahead, Mike.
Can somebody just answer me a question here? I mean, okay, maybe 6 hours in transport time to here to Grants Pass and back. Why, pray tell, didn't we get at least 30 hours, not even 30 hours, 30, of service on a full-time contract deputy? I can't wrap my brain around that.
Because higher priority incidences occurred elsewhere in the county that they also had an obligation to go to. And on top of that, there were multiple cases, judicial cases, lawsuits where they had to provide security or whatnot. So the shortcoming there was also people sick or planned vacations.
Did they reduce that amount of time then from the...
No, because that was one of my major bones of contention, is if you're not going to give us any the hours we're paying for, why don't we at least get a refund for the hours? They said, well, I need to allocate all the money and spend it all at once. I can't spend the money as we go, so you need to pay me the money.
Yeah.
What?
And then you're just going to have to deal with whatever shortcomings there are. And I didn't like that.
Really?
It just is the case. They can do what they can do, and I don't know. I mean, that's.
But why should the city of Cave Junction have to pay for? Wow.
Well, the same thing like you were just saying. There's some people that don't want a 100% marijuana economy. There's a lot of citizens I don't think that want a 100% cop-free atmosphere.
Yeah.
So you gotta kind of like go, well, we have to represent maybe what we feel might be the majority of everybody's best interest, not just people. And if it was the wrong call, it was the wrong call. I'm willing to be beat over the head for it.
Oh, he doesn't want to be beaten up.
Don't get me wrong, please not literally, but that's so that was, I think why at least I came to that decision at that meeting for your information.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Let's laugh about that problem.
Yeah, I mean, that's ridiculous. If these guys are paying for it, I mean, that'd be like, I paid to have a contractor build a house for me, but he had a lot of other houses that he was building at the time. So he used part of my money to build somebody else's house. And I asked for a refund, but he said, hey, I got a lot of obligations.
Hey, I'm a city councilor. I showed up here to answer your questions, but I don't want to be beaten up for any of the things that I've decided that are stupid. Now, just, lay off.
Yeah. That's mind blowing. And you would think that they would go, we got to keep that guy down there all the time because we're getting money for that, which is the thing that the sheriff's department is griping about all the time. We don't have enough money. And here's somebody paying you for your services. You should have 5 more of those deputies. You should go around soliciting some of these surrounding communities saying, hey, you need a deputy out here? We'll charge you $135,000. We pay him $50,000. And, we gain a little bit of profit out of the middle of that.
But just keep in mind now, if you pay for him, he could be called away at any time to go do other duties, but you got to still keep paying for it because that's the deal that they signed with this guy.
Yeah.
What in the world?
Yeah, who's reading your contracts? You know, Cave Junction, perhaps you guys ought to have a couple of people reading the contracts. And
You know who wrote up this contract? Think about it. It wasn't Wally Hicks.
Yeah. Okay. Steve Rich,
Steve
probably.
Rich.
Yeah.
Another thing we owe to Steve Rich, we all owe to the legacy of Steve Rich. And
Yeah,
if you're
I'd
on
have
the
to
city
see this
council,
contract.
I'd
have
want
to see this contract because I'll bet you the CJ City Council guys are just way off base on this. I think they probably do have the right to say, "Hey, listen, you're not providing the service that we're just not going to pay you." It ought to be on an installment basis and say, "Hey, listen, we're gonna deduct a certain amount from the next installment. You only showed up for 60 hours and you're billing us for 120. What's the deal?"
This is not a new issue there. She's bringing up something that's been brought up several times in the community. These guys know what she's talking about. Well, but the explanation is that we pay for it, but then we don't get it, and then we don't complain, and don't complain to me about what I did.
Nice.
That's a town hall. Don't complain to me.
Yeah.
Lovely. Okay, so it is still ramping up. This whole thing is still ramping up. Here's the next installment of the clip from KTVL that's trying to get you to, would you please just get with the program and vote for the next levy? It's coming. Here we go.
County agree public safety is a problem. There are different opinions on how it should be solved. Levies to fund the sheriff's office have repeatedly been defeated by county residents. Some residents say the value of having more sheriff's deputies patrolling streets isn't worth what they would pay. Others say people in the county can't afford to pay the extra money in property taxes.
A lot of people here live off of Social Security, and
Same woman.
if we raise taxes, it's going to put them in kind of a worse hardship than they're already in.
Some say a problem started when timber business began decreasing, and with it, so did O&C timber receipts.
And these counties never had the school problems, never had funding problems when they had the O&C timber receipts, when there was money coming in. Well,
same guy.
Forest fires have devastated big areas, and if they even talk about going in there and logging them and making some revenue off of that, well, the first thing it's tied up in a lawsuit.
Sheriff Dave Daniel says without extra money from a public safety levy, his options are limited. Daniel says he's updated policies, added a new cell block to the jail that treats inmates, and a volunteer patrol division.
Little things is what I'm trying to do without the resources as far as the money that maybe the office used to have. And so it's those little things that I think can really make a difference, even when you're cash strapped.
He's trying to find options, but he says the funding sources are drying up.
I've been focusing on basically the community, getting community involvement, buy-in that way. Neighborhood watches, community watches, that type of thing is really where my focus has been. In supporting the citizens in their decision to stay with the level of law enforcement that we have.
Some in the county say it comes back to personal motivation.
I almost feel like they don't want to be out here. I feel like we need people that want to come out here and be out here and care about this town.
But as it has in the past, how much support is shown for law enforcement will determine the reach throughout the county. Covering your news, Will Metzold, News 10.
Now, Will, are you really covering the news? Because I don't notice you talking to anybody that's on the winning side.
He talked to the sheriff and two other people on the street. That's hitting all the bases there, guy.
Why can't they show up at any of the times when there's a bunch of us that have legitimate questions about this? This is why the sheriff won't meet with us. Did you notice what he was wearing also? Many people in our audience remember the time when he had this orange shirt or the bright blue shirt? This guy's now dressed up as a full-fledged sheriff, and he's telling you, I need money. This was before this last thing was defeated. We told you, didn't we tell you they're going to ramp up? You knew it intuitively, but they were ramping up even before they took that vote. They could see where it was going.
Yeah. This
is Jay Meredith at the city running these groups where their phone banks are from the union. I'm not making this up. Where Connie Roach, who's running for office, she says, bring your initiative ballots by my office at the courthouse and drop them off in the courthouse at my office at the assessor's office. This is your county government and the city staff that are trying to sell you on yet another one of these levies. But this time it's completely different, Mike.
Yeah, it'll be different.
Okay, so here's a question at the Cave Junction meeting that Mike tried to help with. Go ahead, Mike.
Anyway, oh man. Anyway, it's over here. Before I catch over there. Yeah, I see his hand.
Hey, I have a question for you. What was your rationale behind, because there was $1 million in the road fund you guys could have used to fund road patrol. Mm-hmm. You could have taken the existing funds and put that into the jail. I'll cover that. Yeah. So you guys ended up not doing that because if there was an earthquake, we're not going to have any money in the road fund. But I would think if there was an earthquake, we could have FEMA and other money coming in to repair. That's something. Most of those roads are federal, state anyway, not county. So I'm just kind of curious what the rationale. That kind of breaks your argument about no jail beds because you had the opportunity to provide the funds.
The vast majority of bridges in Josephine County are county-owned bridges. They're not state bridges. The main one, you got 199. That's what we think. But how many smaller bridges do you have out all over the county? I mean, there are small bridges all over the place in the county. But the other thing too is, if we could have taken $1 million and put it someplace else, then where do you draw the line? Where do you draw the line of saying no? So you draw the line of saying we're not going to do that because we will be depleting a very under financed operation right now.
It was a surplus. It wasn't taking the money out of it. It was actually a surplus.
It was, but the money was put into the planning department, the public works for roads. That's true. But that account has, don't hold me to this, about $4 million in it. A comparable county like, whether it's Klamath County or whatever, they've got tens of millions of dollars in it. We have a very, very low level of replacement money.
So I'm not fat because I'm skinnier than he is? Is that the
argument? No, that's not the point. At least you didn't use me, so I appreciate that.
Well, to his point, it wasn't all road funds because there was $1 million of unexpected timber money that showed up too, and that's not road dollars. That could have been used and just was, and that happened after the argument was made that we can't take that money out of the road fund because we may need it for some emergency. Then manna from heaven came, $1 million from the feds in the form of timber money that could have been spent any way the county wanted to, and they chose not to.
Okay. Let me focus on the Illinois Valley folks.
Well, I was just piggybacking on him.
I didn't say anything about your comment. I'll talk about taking other questions. That's all I was talking about.
Now look around. Yeah, you got to see him. He's starting to look around, and there's no one else.
Is there somebody who's going to rescue me from this? Because I don't want to address this question because I got nothing.
The one person that he did not want to choose was chomping at the bit to give a 5-minute speech running for commissioner was the next person that he chose. Right? Because it should have just died right there until he answered your question. But you can always count on this guy to always want to jump in and always be there immediately to say 5 minutes, 10-minute speech. Okay. Well, so the one guy
why didn't Dan Mancuso say, yeah, hey, that's a good question? Because all it did was buttress his point. He should have jumped on board and he bailed. Uh-oh, Dale's frozen, and he looks like he's really mad, too. Yes, I don't know. I say we're very, very close to the end of the show, and if we were going to go south, I heard something from Dale. Dale, are you there? Uh-oh. Yeah, if we were going to go south, this is actually probably the best time for that to happen because the bulk of the show is behind us.
I know.
You know why? Uh-oh. Yeah, this is that thing where you know,
Dan Mancoons was not bright enough to understand.
Yeah, I would hate to think that that's true. Yeah. Unfortunately, I believe this is probably gonna be it. We got Dale there, and he's really mad. I don't know if you guys are seeing that or if you're just seeing me.
All right, now, but can you hear me?
Yeah, I heard what you just said just now. Not hearing anything after. I think it probably just better wave bye-bye. And you know, Dale's promising to hit you the next time he sees you, and we probably ought to bail with that because we're not going to get. I don't think we're going to get anywhere here. Seen this before. Yeah, he's still. By George. Yep. Anyway, so I'm going to wave bye-bye to you guys. Thanks for tuning in. I think that was an action-packed program. There was a heck of a lot in that. And tune in tomorrow. Okay?
For all of us that don't know if you can hear us, but I'm going to say good night. Good night.